In what may be the hottest year in history, scientists have recorded radical changes to the permafrost in Antarctica.
The Pandora virus, a so-called giant virus with the largest genome size ever recorded.
The crabs also display increased aggression, even towards larger predators.
A striking new weather anomaly has claimed many coastlines around the world. NASA is examining these clouds to figure out...
We've detected large amounts of an organic composite. So far, the sample doesn't match any of the DNA records we've compared it with.
We all saw it. Those creatures coming out of the sea on that oil rig.
The president has declared a national emergency.
It's obvious that what we're dealing with here is a biological weapon. As of today, we are at war.
It's taking their minds. I saw them walk right into the sea. Thousands of people. Thousands.
The mist is gone, but the city is dead. The roads are broken. You must join one of the havens. Do not attempt to survive on your own.
My name is Randolph Symes. I am the last leader of the Phoenix Project. If you are hearing this, I am most likely dead. But in happier news, a scarab has been sent to pick you up, and its artificial intelligence will take you to Phoenix Point. Get to it quickly and safely. If you are hearing this message, an alert has been triggered and you will need to clear out the enemy forces. There may be others who receive this signal. Help them if you can.
That guy.
It's all up to you now. Good luck, operatives. Symes out.
That guy voiced Avalok in Research 3 with you.
The Phoenix Project was founded on October 24th, 1945. The Second War to end all wars was over, but there were those who understood that we could no longer afford to think in terms of nations and empires. For a time, the Phoenix Project successfully navigated the political conflicts of its era. That was our golden age. Phoenix Project operatives scoured the world for clues. We had bases in 24 countries. Even the heavens were not off limits. But out there, on the far side of the moon, began our downfall. The failure of the Phoenix 2 mission exposed us to our enemies in the UN. Stripped of resources and scattered to the winds, we were reduced to a secret, a memory. When the Pandora virus woke up, we should have been the first line of defense. When huge clouds of mist appeared over the sea, when people started vanishing, we should have figured out what was going on. And when those people started coming back, changed, hostile, alien, we should have been ready to fight, but we failed. The ecosystem started to change, imperceptibly at first, then faster and faster. 3 factions arose. New Jericho, trying to restore order and purity. Synderion, hoping to build a world without hierarchies. And the disciples of Anu, a new syncretic religion dedicated to adaptation and biological change. At war with the world and at odds with each other, these factions cannot find a way forward. Now the mist is returning and armies are rising from the sea. Without the Phoenix Project, humanity will fall. It's time to rise from the ashes. Randolph Symes was the last leader of the Phoenix Project. His great-grandfather had been there when it was founded, and he was there to witness its end. When we took back Phoenix Point, we found his notes. In his final days, as the world collapsed around him, he'd been working frantically to understand the Pandora virus. Somewhere in the complicated history of the project, in decades of missions and investigations, there had to be an answer. His notes were damaged, too many of the files corrupted. But perhaps, if we could retrace his steps, we could figure out where his journey had taken him and what the answers he had discovered would mean for us. The disciples of Anu were a mystery. Where others saw devastation, they saw hope. Where others saw the end of the world, they saw a new beginning. Their leader called herself the Exalted, and she claimed to believe in humanity. She preached that the human soul was perfect, that the root of our problems was our insufficient evolution. The Pandora virus was a threat, but it was also an opportunity to change ourselves, to become better humans, to mutate. We knew that humanity needed to adapt. There was no other way to survive. The disciples offered a solution, but what was their end game? There was something beyond their hierarchies and their rituals. The Exalted had a secret. Synderion was built on a dream, a world without hierarchies, without leaders, where human beings could embrace the potential of technology without its destructive side effects. The radicals of the old world had been proven right. The status quo could not sustain itself. But what now? What was the next step? Some argued for coexistence with the Pandoran ecosystem, hoping for a peaceful solution. Others advocated putting humanity before nature and claiming the planet for themselves. Trusting in the safety of their havens, the people of Synderion argued about the best way forward. But the Pandora virus had little interest in their arguments, and its power was still growing. New Jericho was one man's vision, and everything depended on that one man. Before the war, Tobias West had been a billionaire, an elusive, controversial businessman who denounced war even as he profited from it. When the world fell, his empire began to rise. Some said he was a genius, a man of principle, dedicated to equality and merit, fighting to preserve the core of human freedom, our will. They said he had a plan, that he could lead us to victory. Others called him a dictator, a megalomaniac, fearful of infection and obsessed with purity. They said he was willing to do anything to win, no matter the cost. The Phoenix Project needed allies. New Jericho could help us turn the tide, but it all depended on one man.
As the world fell apart around us, it was difficult not to feel guilty. Some chose to be proactive and fight, but not me. I came here instead. My best weapon is my mind, and I need silence to put it to work. The history of the Phoenix Project is a complex tapestry. In Russia, Turkey, Britain, Spain, not one unbroken lineage, but a tangle of organizations, each passing the torch to the next with only one goal: to protect the human race. But protect it from what? Did they know about the Pandora virus, and if so, how? The answers are out there. So much has been investigated and collected and analyzed, but it's all scattered, lost. I don't know if it's possible to track it all down, but I have to try. There's only one thing I'm sure of. I can't stay here anymore. In the 1960s, the Phoenix Project clashed with an unknown intelligence outfit associated with the CIA. One of these clashes concerned the cultures stored in this lab, said to be responsible for a terrible plague somewhere in what was then called the Third World. At the time of his death, my great-grandfather was trying to force the CIA to at least share some samples, but they denied everything, even the existence of this lab. It looks like the research was abandoned in the late 1970s. I'm not sure why. The samples are degraded, but if my analysis is correct, this is the Pandora virus. Sometimes I wonder whether the only reason we survived as a species is sheer luck.
There had always been rumors that maybe the Pandora virus wasn't from Earth, that some alien disease had come down from the stars, like a plague from heaven. But now that we finally had the evidence we needed, we realized the truth was more terrible than that. The Pandora virus was alien, yes, but it wasn't a disease. It was a bioweapon. We were not alone, and whatever was out there wanted us dead. None of this had deterred Randolph Symes. He continued his quest, hoping that whatever his great-grandfather had buried in Oglethorpe University's time vault held the answers he needed. we would have to hope that he was right.
I'm running out of time. I have my answer, but it's not what I wanted. The antediluvians. They were like us. Then, the Pandora virus came. It destroyed everything. In the end, they found a solution, but at a terrible cost. They created a weapon, the virophage, that destroyed the Pandora virus and themselves. A whole civilization lost to give us a chance. And we wasted it. All this for nothing. This is where it ends. I keep thinking maybe we are all children of the Pandora virus. But the sphere, my God, the sphere.
Finally, we knew our enemy. The Pandora virus was only a tool. It was the hand that wielded it that truly mattered. The creature we came to call the Yuggothian Entity. It was old, perhaps older than the solar system itself. On Yuggoth, the 9th planet, it lay waiting. For thousands of years, it slept in the outer darkness. But when Yuggoth's orbit approached the Earth, it expelled the seeds of our destruction. Its mind reached out, haunting our dreams, infesting our stories. Its ultimate purpose was to transform our world into its own, to recreate whatever long-lost abyss it had come from. Its creatures were already assembling a new body it could inhabit. And when they were done, when the Yuggothian Entity came to Earth, nothing could stand in its way.
It's gone. And that's the Yuggothian receptacle. So, the way I'm seeing it personally, regards to that, the way I'm seeing it, just so people understand, you need to come here, most likely, hit it from that side with the soldier. I did that here with Tyler, and then it will start lowering its plates in certain places or adapting them, and then you are going to be able to hit it. But to get this far, you certainly need one of these fellows, a priest, or maybe two, just to be on the safe side. And the reason behind it is Psychic Ward. Allies with Tentiles are immune to panic and physic damage attacks, and that thing does have physic damage and panic as well, and he will use it for quite a while, so you'll not be able to really reach it. On top of that, just having a level 7 Anno Priest with Mind Crush that deals 100 damage to all enemies, very bloody powerful, right? Anyway, let's go. Here's the virophage.
We had no choice. None of the factions had a viable plan. There was no other way to save the planet, and sometimes the ends had to justify the means. That's what we told ourselves anyway. Within minutes, the Pandora virus began to die, and its creatures soon followed. They died by the millions, and soon the rest of us were dying too. Not everyone. Not enough to wipe us out, but too many. The disciples of Anu collapsed first. The Exalted died within 24 hours of the virophage being released. And without its prophet, the religion fell apart. The future it had promised was impossible now. Synderion tried to fight, to develop a vaccine. And if they'd had more time, they might have succeeded. But they'd lost too many people to maintain their communities. Slowly, they faded out of existence. New Jericho had wanted a world without the Pandora virus, but this was not how they had imagined it. Within a few months, their havens had become ghost towns. Tobias West was one of the few to survive, having lived long enough to see his empire reduced to dust. In the end, despite our losses, we were the only ones left capable of guiding the survivors. We seized control. Humanity could no longer afford to divide itself into factions. And so the Phoenix Project began to build a new world. But although our responsibilities had widened, we did not forget our initial purpose. The war was not over. Up there in celestial darkness, something ancient and powerful still hungered for our planet. But next time, we'd be ready.
Okay, so let's see what happens if the ODI meter gets up to full. I'm gonna avoid any conflict. I'm just waiting for that meter to go to 100%. Okay, the long slumber of countless eons has ended. He rises from his dark tomb in the stars, and all is consumed. As it was written, so shall it be. The triumph of Yugoth shall echo forever.
When our last base fell, we knew we'd lost the war. The Phoenix Project was doomed, and the Earth was lost. But for the Earth that was, and all the Earth that could have been, for our friends and family lost to the mist, for all our dreams and hopes that would never come true, we would keep fighting to the end.
Victory.
For countless eons, the Yuggothian Entity had planned this day. With the power to bend an entire ecosystem to its will, its triumph over humanity was inevitable. No wonder it considered itself a god. It knew that even if we defeated its armies, it could wait us out. Its real weapon was the Pandora virus, the ultimate terraforming tool. But there was one possibility it had never accounted for: that we would seize that tool for ourselves. It was now that the real war began. The war to recreate the world according to human needs, to build a sustainable system that would allow the individual to flourish. There was no space for new Jericho in the new system. Synderion could no longer make excuses. Coexistence was impossible. Tobias West was an honorable opponent, but he had to be destroyed. When she heard what Synderion had accomplished, the Exalted proclaimed that the age of the dead god was over, and the disciples of Anu were dissolved. After that, she disappeared. It did not take long for her religion to be forgotten. Synderion began to build the new world. Old species were revived, and new ones were designed. The age of scarcity was over. The earth became a work of art, a testament to human ingenuity. As for the Phoenix Project, we finally had the support we needed. It was time to build, to train, to prepare. Up there in celestial darkness, something ancient and powerful still hungered for our planet. But next time, we'd be ready.
Okay, and thus ends.
In the end, it wasn't her powers or her followers that allowed us to win. It was her humanity. An alien god spoke to her in her mind, and instead of being dominated or obliterated, she tricked him. By the time he realized what she was doing, it was too late. She'd stolen his knowledge, cut him off from his armies on Earth. He was alone on his dark planet, and humanity was saved. The war wasn't over, of course. It's never that simple. There were still those who wanted to go back to how things were before, to make the same mistakes again. But the Exalted would not allow it. New Jericho fought to the end. She respected that. Tobias West and his people believed in their principles and died for them. With them died the last fragment of the old world. Synderion continued to exist. This was not the future they had dreamed of, but somewhere in this changing world there was space for their ideas. They would contribute what they could and hope that conflict could be avoided. Like everyone, they had had enough of war. Humanity began to adapt and evolve. No longer bound by the chains of an imperfect biology, human beings finally flourished. The belief in the dead god and the hierarchies of the disciples fell away. It was no longer necessary to believe in some distant deity when the Exalted walked among us. As for the Phoenix Project, we went back to the shadows for a while. We knew the war wasn't over. Up there, in celestial darkness, something ancient and powerful still hungered for our planet. But next time, we'd be ready. Wars always have winners and losers. This was our moment to savor. Victory against overwhelming odds, against an incursion that threatened to wipe out our species and our world. Human ingenuity got a targeting beacon planted on the receptacle. When West gave the word, we activated the satellite network. We hit the palace with everything we had. After that, the war became one we could win. New Jericho and the Phoenix Project in alliance, fighting to save humanity. Inch by inch, reclaiming the land and then the ocean. The enemy fought back, but wildly, incoherently, without strategy. They were beaten. Next, we had to deal with the infected. We rounded up those we couldn't save and quarantined them in vast camps, far away from the new cities. Anyone who didn't comply died. It was the only way. Synderion objected, but in the end, they worked with us. The Anu cult resisted us at first, but as the prophecies of their misguided religion failed, they lost hope. They remain an insurgent threat, but one that we are determined to eliminate. There's no place for them in this new age. Much was achieved by one man's vision, but one man cannot shoulder the burden of the world. After the war, Tobias West forged new alliances and began to build a better system. There will be no nations in our future, just one people, humanity, determined to protect the rights of every individual to live free and in peace. As for the Phoenix Project, we finally had the support we needed. It was time to build, to train, to prepare. Up there in celestial darkness, something ancient and powerful still hungered for our planet. But next time, we'd be ready.